video. And mainly the budget line. Alright, so yesterday, or the other day should I say, we looked at the assumptions of the indifference curves and defined indifference curves as a curve that shows the different combinations of two goods that give us the same utility. So different combinations of two goods that show us or give us the same utility. And we described that there are different types or different shapes of indifference curves. All right, and these shapes are determined by the types of goods, the two goods that we are looking at. If the two goods are normal goods, they have no relation whatsoever, then we're going to have the convex indifference curves. All right, so now to understand about the shapes of the indifference curves, you need to look at what is known as the marginal rate of substitution, of which I defined yesterday that the marginal rate of substitution is simply the rate at which a consumer is willing to give up one good for another good. Okay, so when you look at the marginal rate of substitution, it is simply also known as the slope or the gradient of the indifference curve. All right, so for example here, you can see that the gradient is calculated by the change in y over change in x, and it is always negative because of the negative relationship, because of the trade-offs. Okay, so we know that the indifference curves are downward sloping, and because they're downward sloping, it means they'll have a negative gradient. Okay, so the -4 there is just showing the negative sign to indicate the downward sloping indifference curve. Okay, so when we calculate the marginal rate of substitution, it's the change in x, change in y over change in x. Remember how we used to calculate it in grade 12? We would say y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And it's the same thing that you're going to do for this indifference curve. So whatever indifference curve you're given, you're going to be given the y-axis and the x-axis. Getting 2 points there, you can find the marginal rate of substitution. Okay, and let's say, for example, here they found an answer which is -4. So what does that -4 mean? That means for a consumer to get 1x, they'll need to give up 4y. Okay, so remember, it's just like the marginal opportunity cost. So how many of y should you give up to get one more of x is what is called the marginal rate of substitution. Okay, so the marginal rate of substitution, so I want you just to see this. It says the gradient of the indifference curve is referred to as the marginal rate of substitution of y for x. So how many of y should you give up, or how many of y is the consumer willing to give up to get 1x? So if I want, for example, to move, I'm having 2x right now and 4y, and I'm saying, well, I want to give up 1x to get another, I want to give up y to give up y to get one more of x. So how many of y should I give up? So it means in this case, if the gradient is 4, it means for every trade, if I want to get 1x, I must give up or forgo 4y. Okay, so we looked also at the diminishing marginal rate of substitution. So diminishing marginal rate of substitution simply just tells us that as the consumer increases the consumption of one good, the marginal rate of substitution declines, and that is the law of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. When the consumer is increasing their consumption of one good, let's say for example x, the more that you have x, the marginal rate of substitution will be declining, meaning it will reduce. Okay, so the law of diminishing marginal rate of substitution states that as the consumer increases the consumption of one good, e.g. x, the marginal rate of substitution declines. Okay, so that is all about that. So the marginal rate of substitution is the reason why indifference curves will have different shapes, like I said. So here, for example, this indifference curve that is here, this is called the convex indifference curve. So convex to the origin indifference curves. So these ones have got this shape because of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. And these are indifference curves as well for two normal goods. Okay, so that is the reason why these are convex to the origin. Okay, the other type of indifference curve is the L-shaped indifference curve, these ones. So these are indifference curves for perfect substitutes, and the marginal rate of substitution is equal to 0 throughout. So at whatever point, so long as they're L-shaped, the marginal rate of substitution is 0. So they can ask you why indifference curves L-shaped. This is because the marginal rate of substitution is 0, and because the two goods are perfect complements. Okay, for the other one here, we have what is known as perfect complements. Remember, as substitutes rather. So substitutes, these are goods that cannot be consumed together. So if you have, for example, Pepsi on the y-axis and on the x-axis you have Coca-Cola, you know these two goods cannot be consumed together. So they'll have an indifference curve that has parallel lines, or they can be vertical, they can be straight lines. Okay, so these are called straight lines indifference curves, and these are indifference curves for perfect substitutes, and their marginal rate of substitution is constant throughout. So meaning the marginal rate of substitution at whatever point, so long as it's a straight line indifference curve, it's going to be the same. It's going to be constant throughout. So if it's 2, for example, it's going to be 2 throughout the indifference curves. Okay, so the marginal rate of substitution for perfect substitutes is a constant number. It does not change. That's what it entails. Okay, so I hope that we're okay with the 3 indifference curves. Alright, so please, if you have any question, you get to call me, and then we can discuss more if wherever you're not clear. Alright, so I want to focus on today's topic, which is the budget line, and I feel once we do the budget line, I can say you're safe when it comes to consumer theory. So the budget line, I want you, whenever you hear the word budget line, what should come to your mind is an aspect of income. Now, I do believe that where you are right now, you wish to live in the most prestigious house, you wish to drive the most expensive car, you wish to have the nicest of food that you can see and you can always get. But I believe today you don't have all those things. Even though you want to have those things, you're not going to get them because of one thing, of money. If you don't have money, no matter how much you desire something, you can never have it. No matter how much Duncan would desire to marry, if he does not have the money to pay the lobola, does not have the money to do what he's supposed to do, well, he's not going to get that. And I believe some ladies will say, I'm not your class. And they would tell you you're not your class because of what is known as the budget line. So now I want you to focus on the indifference curves. Indifference curves, you see, if we have this indifference curve, we say that the higher the indifference curve, the higher the satisfaction. So a rational consumer will always desire an indifference curve that is up. So here, for example, you have U2, U1, and U3. And according to assumptions of consumer theory, every consumer would desire to have the highest, to be on the highest indifference curve. But the reason you're not going to be on the highest indifference curve is going to be because of income. And that income is going to be represented by the concept that I'm introducing that is called the budget line. So the budget line will put a strict mark to say you cannot go this far. So the budget line, whatever line that you're seeing here, so this is the budget line. It is a restriction telling you cannot get anything above. Now, this budget line should remind you of the PPF. Remember the PPF, we had 3 points. We had points that were attainable, points that were efficient, points that were inefficient, and points that were unattainable. For example, points that are inside the PPF, they were called attainable. And it's the same thing when it comes to the budget line. The budget line is representing your money. So anything that is below your money, let's say for example you have 100 kwacha. It means anything that is less than 100 kwacha you can afford to buy. Okay, so anything that you can afford to buy is called attainable. Okay, so the budget line, anything that is inside the budget line is something that you can afford, and it is called attainable. All right, then anything that is on the budget line, now, okay, let me start with something that is above. Anything that is above the budget line is unattainable. You cannot attain it. It's like you have 100 kwacha, then you want to buy something that is worth 150 kwacha. You cannot buy it. Why? Because it is above your budget. So you can only buy something that is below your budget or equal to your budget. So if you have 100 kwacha, it means you can only buy something that is equal to 100 kwacha or less than 100 kwacha. So the budget line will restrict us. So if an indifference curve is above the budget line, a consumer cannot attain it. If the indifference curve is within the budget line or on the budget line, then the consumer can attain it. Okay, so the budget line there is simply representing income. Okay, now let's look at the formal definition of what the budget line is. So the budget line is simply a curve that shows the combinations of two goods that can be purchased by a consumer using a certain amount of income based on the market price of the goods. So given the prices of goods, the question is, given the prices of goods and given the income, what can the consumer get in those things? So now I want you to pay attention to the definition. It says the combinations of two goods. So when whatever combination is on the budget line means that the consumer is spending all their income. If, for example, I have 100 kwacha and I plan to spend this 100 kwacha on two goods, Coke and let's say Hungry Lion, it means the combination of, let's say, one Coke and one Big Bite 2 or whatever, it means they should cost me 100 kwacha. So everything that is going to cost me 100 kwacha, every combination of Hungry Lion and Coke that will cost me 100 kwacha is going to be on the budget line. So when it comes to the points on the budget line, we're simply talking about points, about combinations of two goods that a consumer is going to spend all their income. Okay, so for example here, combination A, so long as it's on the budget line, you have X, 10 of X and 0 of Y. It means when you get that combination with their respective prices, they should be able to equal to your income. Okay, so let me just give an example here. Okay, so the formula for the, let me first give you the formula for the budget line. All right, so the budget line, so PX is going to represent the price of X, then X will represent the quantity of X. Okay, so let's say X is Coke, then the price of Coke is going to be PX, then X will be Coke. Then plus PY will be the price of Y, and Y is going to be the quantity of Y. Okay, so now the budget line, now income in economics is either represented by an I or M, whatever. Okay, so the budget line is equal to what you are able to see on the screen there. I, which is income, is equal to PX, which is the price of X times X, plus the price of Y times Y. So the PX is the price of X times the quantity of X plus the price of Y times the quantity of Y. So what we're saying here is that every combination should be equal to your income. So if it's not equal to your income, then it's not on the budget line. Okay, so let's say for example here, so if you spend all your money to purchase Y, you will obtain 5 units of Y. And if you choose to obtain, I'm just reading what is there. All right, so now let me just get this. Okay, can I find something here? Okay, so let's say for example, okay, I have this. So assume, okay, you have 10 kwacha. All right, I'm just reading what is there. So assume that you have 10 kwacha to spend on good X and good Y, and the price of X is 1 kwacha and the price of Y is 2 kwacha. Okay, so I want you just to use this formula here. You can pause the video and try to insert these here. You see if it will be whatever point you're going to get. Let's say you get 10 to the point 10 there and replace it here. So remember our income is what? Is 10 kwacha. Okay, and the price of X is 1 and the price of Y is 2. So coming to our formula here, okay, we can put our I there is representing our income. So we're going to have 10 on the I. Hope you're writing. So on the I there, I want you to put 10 is equal to, what is the price of X? We said 1. So you can say 1 times, what is X? So you can go back here. At the table, X is 10. So you can put where there is X there, you can put 10. Then we say plus the PY. Okay, so the PY, okay, so we say the price of Y is equal to 2. So you can put where there is PY, you put 2. Then where there is Y, there you can put 0, because that's what we have here for combination A. Our Y is 0 and our X is 10. So once you put those, you realize that it will be equal to 10. So it means the I is equal to whatever you're spending. So it means the consumer is exhausting all their income. So a point okay, is only on the budget line. On the budget line, whatever combination is on the budget line means that the consumer is consuming all their income. There's no change that is remaining. So if you have 100 kwacha, it means you're spending all the 100 kwacha. If you have a 2 kwacha, there's no change that is remaining. Okay, and that is what is known as, we come to the concept of the rational consumer. A rational consumer does not leave change. If you have a 10 kwacha, it's shipway, everything you have to finish to be considered as a rational consumer. Okay, hope you're not one of them, because you should be saving money, isn't it? So the budget line, please, whatever points are inside the budget line are attainable. Whatever points are above the budget line are not attainable. So the only two parts of the budget line that are attainable is the ones inside or the ones on the budget line. But the ones on the budget line means you spend, it's a combination of two goods that you spend all your money. Okay, that's the definition. Coming back here, it says the budget line is simply a curve that shows combinations of two goods that can be purchased by a consumer using a certain amount of income and based on the market price. So it's using all your income that is on the budget line. If it's inside the budget line, then it means you spend. So let's say, for example, the combination, we can have 3y and 2x. Okay, so a consumer can choose 3y and 2x, but that means they will not exhaust all their income. They'll still have change. All right, and if they still have change, then it means they are not on the budget line. So it tends to differ when it comes to the combinations on the budget line and combinations inside the budget line. But I hope you understand from the concept of the PPF. The points that are inside, they're attainable. The ones that are above, they're not attainable. All right. So here is the same concept of the PPF. The only thing that are changing here is the name. So this line, for example, was called the PPF line, right? But now it is called the budget line. And the points that are above, all right, they are attainable points. They're not attainable points, and the points that are inside are attainable points. So it's the same concept. There's nothing different at all. All right. So hope that was very clear. So this is the formula for the budget line again. Income is equal to Px, which is the price of x, times x, which is the quantity of x, plus Py times y. Okay. So let us move on now to look at the changes in income. So what happens when we know that our income has increased? All right. So let's say, for example, you'd love to buy a certain dress, but you know that your income does not allow you to buy that. You are getting less pay. And that money that you get every time when you spend on your bills, you spend on your children, your money gets to finish. But you'd love to buy a dress. It means you're not able to. That dress is above the budget line. But when your income increases, let's say you get a high paycheck now, they increase your salary at work. It means now whatever you are not able to purchase, now you can purchase. So that means whatever you are not able to attain previously, you can now attain. Okay, so I want you to show that if there is a change in income, there is something that happens to the budget line. And what happens to the budget line is that it shifts upwards, parallel to the initial budget line. So parallel to the initial budget line. So you can see here that a change in income, when your income increases, so let's say, for example, our initial budget line is here where we're able to purchase maximum 5 of y and maximum 10 of y. When your income increases, meaning now you can purchase more. So the budget line is going to shift parallel to the previous one. Okay? So that's what happens when income increases. When income increases, the budget line shifts parallel to the initial budget line. That's how you show the effect of change in income. When income changes, the budget line will shift parallel to the previous budget line. So that's how you show the change. Okay? And I hope that is okay. Now, what happens when there's a change in the prices of goods? So you know that if you're able, for example, to purchase Coca-Cola when it's 10 kwacha, when the price of Coca-Cola goes to 12 kwacha, not everybody will be able to purchase the Coke at 12 kwacha. Others will say, well, we don't have enough money. So that means when prices change, there's going to be a change in your relative income. So not that your income is decreasing. Let's say, for example, if you have a 10 kwacha, when prices increase, you still have the 10 kwacha, but it means the purchasing power of that 10 kwacha is going to go down, right? So the purchasing power of money tends to go down when prices increase. But when prices lower, what happens to the purchasing power? It increases, meaning the same 10 kwacha will now be able to get more things. So if you look at, for example, the depreciation of the kwacha in the recent years, you used to get, remember how our 20 kwacha used to buy us midi meal? How our 20 kwachas or 5 kwachas used to do so much for us. But today, because the purchasing power has gone down, the prices of goods have gone up, fuel prices have gone up, money tends to lose its value. So in that case, when prices change, there's a change in the purchasing power. Okay, so now here's what happens. I want you, there are just two things here that you need to know: a decrease in price and an increase in price. So let us here look at the effect of change in price. Now, I want you to focus on this one here, when there's a decrease in price of one good. Okay, so let's say, for example, we have good Y on the Y-axis and good X on the X-axis. So let's say, for example, the price of Y has decreased while the price of X has remained the same. So nothing, X just remains the same, Y, the price has decreased. Now, what is going to happen here? You have the same income. It means you can buy more of Y using the same amount of money. So let's say, for example, you have a 10 kwacha and you used to buy Coca-Cola at 2 kwacha. It means you are buying, or let's say, for example, you have a 10 kwacha. Okay, so you have a 10 kwacha. Coca-Cola is 5 kwacha. It means how many Cokes can you buy? 2, right? So if a 10 kwacha, Coca-Cola is 5 kwacha, it means you can only buy 2 Coke in that money, right? Now let's say the price of Coke goes down. Let's say it's now 2 kwacha. It means you still have the 10 kwacha, but now it means you can buy more using the same 10 kwacha, because now it's only 2 kwacha, meaning now you can purchase 5. All right? So you can see that when prices of goods lower, you can increase your consumption or the number of goods that you can buy. So that's what is happening here. So the price of X has remained the same, whereas the price of Y has decreased. So how are you going to show that? You show that through what is known as a pivotal shift in the budget line. So a pivotal shift in the budget line. That's what it is known as. So here you can see from the budget line AA, okay, where there's a 5 there. You can see that's capital letter A and that's capital letter A. So that's budget line AA. That's how you label the budget line. So you'd say the budget line AA is the initial budget line. When the price of Y decreases, the budget line will shift outwards towards Y. Now you can see that the consumer was only able to, was buying 5, but now the price of Y has decreased. It means they can be able to buy 10. So you can see there that there's a pivotal outward shift of the budget line when the good Y decreases in price. Okay, so I hope that is clear. So that's how you show the shift, the pivotal shift in the budget line. So you can see where there is 10 there on the X-axis, it's remained the same. Why? Because the price of X has remained the same. Okay, so let us look at this other one. This other one you can see here, it's now an increase in price. Now when the price increases, it means the same amount of money can buy now less of whatever you are buying. So you can see there that the initial budget line is AA and the budget line is shifting now inwards because there is an increase in the price of Y. So when there's an increase in the price of Y, the budget line pivots or rotates inwards. Okay, so that's how you get to show an increase in the price of Y. Okay, let me just show you, let me just pause the video and get to show you as well for X, because this book only has an increase. So now here's an example of a decrease in the price of X. All right, so if the price of X, all right, so let's say for example the price of X is the one now declining, whereas for Y it's remaining the same. So you can see there at 30 we're remaining constant. Then here where there was an X, or where X was, the budget line is rotating to the right. Okay, so you can see now we're able to purchase more of X. So if it was the opposite, it would have just gone in the opposite direction. Okay, if the price of X had increased, it means now we would have been able to just buy less of it. So it tends to rotate inwards. So if there is a decrease in price, the budget line, if there's a decrease in price of one good, the budget line rotates outwards. If there's an increase in the budget line in one good, the budget line rotates inwards. Okay, so that is how the budget line gets to shift. Okay, so let us get back to the class. Okay, and the last one now is when there is a change. Okay, though the book does not have this, what happens if both prices change together? So let's say, for example, the price of X decreases and the price of Y also decreases. So when both prices either decrease at the same time or increase at the same time, the budget line tends to shift just the way income affects it. So it either rotates, it either shifts parallel upwards or downwards depending on what has happened. So if, for example, the budget line, if, for example, there is a decrease in the price of both goods have decreased, meaning now you can purchase more of your money, means like income has increased. So there'll be an upward shift in the budget line parallel, okay, just the way that it was for income when both prices change or when both prices reduce. But when both prices increase, okay, when both prices increase, there'll be a downward shift, parallel shift in the budget line, just the way that income gets to affect it. So remember, there are three ways in which the budget line can shift. The first one is when income changes. When income changes, the budget line tends to shift upwards. If income has increased, it tends to shift downwards when income has reduced. The other way is when prices change. So when one good's price changes, it rotates. Okay? When both of the goods change, the budget line shifts just the way that the income has changed when both prices have changed. So hope that was very, very clear for you. Okay. And the last thing now we're going to look at is what is known as consumer equilibrium. Okay. And please, there's nothing here hard about consumer equilibrium. Consumer equilibrium. Okay, so maybe let me get to end this video and then record another short video on consumer equilibrium. Then we can call it a day. But for now, I believe that was enough. Please, if you have not understood anywhere, please give me a call and then I can be able to explain to you wherever you're not clear, that is.